David Eswick is a very nice gentleman. He comes around and socializes with everyone, the young, the old, everybody he does socialize with.
I met David in 2007 when he was Minister of Economic Affairs. He gave me a grant, and honestly, I was very thankful.
David Eswick don't leave out people, don't matter what. I had a couple months there, my feet was hurting me, and my son called him, and David Eswick come right down by me and check my feet and told me I will get back to you. And he did get back to me, and he brings some medication for me. And look, right now we're walking good. I don't want a doctor no more, because he come and assist me. A very good man. Don't want a better person than him.
Always for you.
Always for you.
I went to Parliament and created a bill to pay debts with government bonds. An IOU for an IOU. The only way that could be fair is if they have $5,000 for me or you, and we happen to owe them $4,000 or $5,000, or an equal or maybe even slightly more amount, as the case may be, that we should be able to walk into the Barbados Revenue Authority, hand them back their bonds. They are trying to make it legal tender. And Sir Henry Ford in 1991 said that it was illegal and immoral to pay people with government paper. If it was illegal and immoral in 1991, it has to be illegal and immoral now. You see, these are the little things that affect us all. When you have a government who believes that they can do as they please, how they please, when they please, to who they please, then the only one who will be pleased at the end of the day is them, not us. I am not afraid to say it, but you do understand that if you had government bonds, government paper, in 2017 you could have gone to any lending institution in Barbados, produced a government bond or treasury note, and these lending institutions were willing to lend you money, using that as collateral. After the decimation of government paper, bonds are no longer considered valid collateral at most lending institutions. And if you get one that will take it, you have to understand they're not giving you $10,000 loan with a $10,000 bond. They are going to give you maybe $3,000 for a $10,000 bond because they don't really want it. And what was disappointing to me, when they were talking about this paying of debt with government paper, an IOU for an IOU, the Right Honorable Dr. Jerome Walcott, let me use his title, the Honorable Dr. Jerome Walcott, I heard on the radio talking about people shouldn't say that you getting paid with bonds and got people can't pay the bills, that they can still pay the bills. They pay the bills all now. How condescending, how dismissive, how out of touch could someone be? He does not realize that for many of us, Paying our bills is not easy. That we have borrowed from every Tom, Dick, and Harry we could to make ends look at each other because they can't meet. And that angers me and disappointed me because I am not afraid to share or ashamed to say I thought better of Dr. Walcott. How dare he dismiss what we, the average Barbadian, are going through? How dare he? There's no need for that. Yes, some of us are still doing a little better than others. But at the end of the day, if the government of Barbados owes you $10,000, you should receive $10,000, not a $10,000 IOU that you could cash in 15 years or 10 years or 8 years. And if there is a national disaster, you go wait another 2 years. Like you got 10 years put down a plastic bag or stick it in a cupboard in the back of your house somewhere. But they want to tell you that it's about leadership. It is not about just leadership. It is about you, the people. It is about you, the people of Barbados, the people of Breezy Hill, Chapel, and all around here. It is about the people from the north to the south, the east to the west. Not just those who are fortunate enough that if the government ordered $20,000, it doesn't affect their livelihoods. He doesn't know what car payment you got, how much money you got left on the mortgage, nor does he care. And that became apparent with such a callous statement, a disappointing statement. The other thing I want to address tonight is gun violence. You see, I know we all like to pretend that it's somebody else, it is some bad boy that involved in gangs or whatever, and it don't affect us. And I will admit readily that I may have been guilty of feeling somewhat disconnected from such. Until one day, I had just returned from Ocala, Florida, and my other half and I were having lunch in the food court at Sheraton. And she was trying to convince me that maybe we should get married and move to the States where she is from. And then we heard the first shot, then the second and the third. And before we know it, we, like many others in there, were scrambling, trying to make sure that we were safe. And when questioned about gun violence and the number of murders that we were having on this island, the Attorney General, the Honorable Dale Marshall, his response was something to the effect, I'm not going to try to quote him, I don't remember the exact words, but to the effect that he ain't buying a gun and sending the body to shoot in the body, and that we shouldn't politicize it. But he forgets that after an incident a few years earlier, he and Miss Motley were calling for Frenda Stewart to fire Adriel Brathwaite as Attorney General. They politicized it. They had the solutions. Remember, give me an X and watch me. Give me a vote and watch me. And well, I have to tell Miss Motley that we were watching with eyes wide open, not shut. But that is what they think of us. that they can do as they please, say as they please, act as they please, and we should either shut up or leave. Well, I have news for them. I am not going to shut up. I got a phone call this morning, probably sometime around 7:30. And it startled me because last night after I left speaking over in St. Martin's, I went up to Massage Street and spoke for Andrea World. And my other half decided to record it and go on Facebook Live. And this morning, I got a phone call warning me that I may be a target, that they will come after me. Well, tell them come. I am right here. I am not a candidate, but I am a concerned citizen of this country who has earned the right to vote, who pays taxes, and I have every right to question any administration, B, D, C, E, F, or G. Okay. So I am not going to stop talking, whether on a platform like tonight or via social media. When I see a wrong, I will bring it up. And who don't like it could suck something else. I am not afraid of them. Well, kinda, because I remember leading into the last election, I told you all that campaign was missing a letter. It said Mia cares, and they were missing the first S in front, cares. It should have been Mia scares, because she scared me. Not for me personally, but for this lovely island I call home. And for the people that I consider my friends, my family, even if we don't know each other. Because when you cut, we all bleed. And I bleed with you. So ladies and gentlemen, I am going to ask you once again, come January 19th, get up early in the morning, call your neighbors, your family, your friends. If you got chickens and dogs, carry them to the polls too, if you can get them to vote. And vote for Dr. David Eswick from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. And let us return St. Philip West to its rightful home. And I will ask you to please encourage those in the surrounding constituencies to get out and support Neil Marshall, support Michael Lashley, support Andrea World, and let us get rid of this motley collection of political misfits. Thank you and good night.
Eswick was a real proper man. He was a man of his word. I went forward with it, you understand?
There's so much to say about David. Mr. Eswick looked up for the constituents in terms of providing employment for the youngsters.
The years he ran, he ended up doing some of my cricket team. He sponsored us for like 3 years or whatever. Every time he win, he doubled the money. Or whatever, give us a party. He do a lot for children.
I'm glad he's back. He do a lot for us in Chapel and St. Philip, and I appreciate what he did. He helped my daughter with my son at work. He helped my children, right? And I was glad for that.
I don't even see my current representative. I don't even know who representing us all right now.
St. John came in power, we didn't see him at all.
Then Mr. Eswit was in. All it know Eswit out, I still been seeing Eswit around the community, learning and socializing with the constituents, giving advice.
David Eswit, always for me and the people of Barbados.
Always for you.
And I can let you know now straight too. He don't just say. He's a man of his word and he's always there for you. Direct.
Biggity. The best pick is Eswick. The best pick is Eswick. The best pick is Eswick. Tell me who's the best pick? David Eswick. Make way for the people's champ, the only one in Philip West one. Tell me who's the best pick? David Eswick. St. Philip people know this is true. Eswick always for you. Tell me who's the best pick? David Eswick. In transport and water, agriculture, economic affairs. He helped build this nation for years. He sweat yellow and blue. Eswick always for you. So F-U-C-K, tell she I say the best pick is Eswick. The best pick is Eswick. The best pick is Eswick. Tell me who's the best pick?
Yeah, but listen.
Good night. Good night to the residents of Chapel, Breezy Hill, Halton Terrace, Sunbury, Ebenezer, all those who are in the hearing of my voice. For those who don't know me, my name is Jector Inks. I am a long-standing resident of Chapel, and also those persons who would normally run into me having my walks in the morning. I want to say good night to comrades and friends of the Democratic Labour Party, residents of the area, members of the electronic and print media, and those who are following us on Instagram, YouTube, or any other social media network. The detractors of the Democratic Labour Party, welcome to you too. It's a pleasure, and it's always my pleasure, to talk to the people of Barbados. It is always my pleasure to have a conversation, and that is what I'm going to have tonight. I want to have a conversation. Let us talk. I am not here to discuss finance and economics, because I can easily confuse you with the technical, quantitative, and qualitative analysis. I'm not about that tonight. I am about a simple conversation, because I want you to reflect. I want you to understand where we are going. You must reflect on what happened between 2018 and now. The time that the Barbados Labour Party wasted, because they came to us with a covenant of hope. I want you to remember that. Mayor Amar Mortley and her cabinet came to us on May 2018
and said to us that there had the cure and the solutions for the problem faced in Barbados. They wanted us to believe that the Democratic Labour Party was the worst thing that ever happened to this country. They wanted us to believe that Faradell Jerome Stewart, the former Prime Minister of Barbados, was nothing more than a waste of time. That is what Motley wants us to believe. So what we did is that she was sitting in the church. She was sitting in our homes at the dining table, and we moved her from there and decided that we were going to put Mayor Amar Motley and her cabinet in the pulpit. So they moved from the pew to the pulpit, and we gave them 30 seats. Now that she is in the pulpit, we realize that she is nothing more than a wolf in sheep clothing. Now that she is in the pulpit, we realize that all she is made up of, that she is not that brilliant as we thought. That, we said we gave her the impression that she had the pedigree, that she was born to be a leader, only to realize that Mayor Amar Motley and her cabinet is running Barbados on 5 principles. Let me tell you what the 5 principles are. And it is dangerous. A principle of lies, deceit, deception, communication, propaganda, and borrowed money. I am going to repeat it. Barbadians are now coming to realize, and our eyes are open, that the Barbados Labour Party, under the leadership of Mayor Amar Motley as Prime Minister, they are trying to lead this country on lies. 5 principles: lies, deception, deceit, communication, propaganda, and borrowed money. And I'm going to explain every one to you tonight. Every one of those principles. Now they said they had this covenant of hope. And the covenant of hope is now a covenant of despair. There are many Barbadian families tonight, persons who live in Breezy Hill, individuals who live in Chapel, who live in Halton Terrace, Kendall, Featherbed Lane, Sunbury, that don't know which bill they are going to pay at the end of the month. Struggling to buy food. Struggling to pay those bills, wondering if you're going to lose your vehicle or you're going to lose your house. That is where we are in this country. But you have a Prime Minister who says that many hands make light work. But within the Democratic Labour Party, when we were in office, we ran a country with 17 ministers, including parliamentary secretaries in that 17. Now you have a Prime Minister who have surrounded herself, I'm telling you, have surrounded herself with high-paid consultants, high-paid communication specialists, and all that, then the result, and all that we have gotten and we have seen is nothing more than ghosts, goblins, and witches. All that we have seen is nothing more than ghosts, goblins, and witches. Something that have never happened before. And you ask yourself the question, why it is, and I have repeated it at Harlington, I repeated it at Lynch's for those people and I am going to repeat it tonight. It is my national anthem. Just as how they had a national anthem talk about the last decade, I have a national anthem for 5 principles of mismanagement of this country. So, you are wondering why it is that all of those consultants are attached to the Ministry of Finance. Everyone, every major consultant hired is attached to the Ministry of Finance. Well, I have something to tell you tonight. If the Prime Minister office is managed by expenses, there is no Prime Minister office in the history of Barbados that do not manage the office. You have to have expenses. But what is amazing is that this Prime Minister have a title in her office called professional fees. Not expenses, professional fees. And under that heading called professional fees, the Prime Minister have an amount of $1,296,000 to pay persons as part of the communications propaganda. So if you are wondering where she is getting the money from, that money is under the heading Prime Minister's Office. Item, if you understand the estimates and you want to search for it, look for Prime Minister's Office, item 226. So that is where she is finding the money to pay David Ellis, to pay Justin Ram, to pay Avinash Prasad, to pay Kevin Greenwich of the IMF. That is where she is getting the money, $1,296,000. And you know what is dangerous about it? Is that when that money runs out, she can go to Parliament and ask for more money, what we call in technical terms a supplementary. A technical high term, but that is just going to Parliament and asking for more money. Now this is the kind of deceit and the deception that people in Barbados are subject to. That is what it is. So when you can get a Prime Minister telling you that if she is re-elected, that they are going to roll out a number of policies to reduce food prices in Barbados. Utter nonsense. You are telling me that they had 3 years from 2018 until 2022. And one of their critical missions, because the Prime Minister says when she gets elected that she have a critical mission, and one of those critical, the elements of those that critical mission is to reduce food prices. Could you believe? And I want you to reflect. That is why I say to you that we are going to have a conversation. I want us to have a conversation. I want you to reflect and understand what is happening in this country. When the Prime Minister said they were going to reduce food prices, we implemented a tax called the NSRL that she got the private sector to march against. She got every person in Barbados to march against. And you must ask yourself, did the food prices come down with the removal of the NSRL? The answer is no. In fact, the cost of living tripled. And I like to make it simple. I like to make it simple. When the Democratic Labour Party was in office, the price of oil went to $200 a barrel. You should remember that. And what we did as a government, we absorbed those losses. That is what we did as a government. We absorbed those losses so that the people of Barbados won't get hurt. And Clyde Maskell and all of his advisors says that we were going to bankrupt the country. When the price of diesel, gasoline, and kerosene was going up, we absorbed the losses because we shield the people of Barbados. From 2018, when they entered office, the price of a tin of corned beef in Barbados was $1.89. Anybody can challenge me on that. The price of a tin of corned beef, don't matter which brand, was $1.89. Before COVID, the first case of COVID was recorded in Barbados on the 20th of March 2020, was the first case. And before the first case of COVID, the price of a tin of corned beef moved from $1.89 to $3.25, and they blame everything else, including the DLP. After COVID, now that COVID came upon us, the same corned beef is now $7.59. And they're blaming COVID and still blaming the DLP. A tin of tuna, when we left office prior to COVID, in the face of rising oil prices, when we left office, was 89 cents. Depends on where you want to shop. Depends on where you shop and what brand of tuna you wanted. The price of a tin of tuna today is $3.52. Depends on where you go. Or $3.25. And that is what we say when we talk about Mayor cares. Mayor cares. Give me the vote and watch me. We are in this together. We is we. We are Barbadians. But I want to say something tonight and to the leadership of the BLP that we are not in this together. We are not in this together. You have created a monster in Barbados, and we are going to deal with the monster come January 19th. We are going to behead that monster with our axe. We have been silent for too long. We have been quiet, but come January 19th, it is going to be a different Barbados. A different Barbados. You see, we realize and we begin to understand the theatrics that are being played out. We understand the gimmicks. Traveling on the world stage with the fancy speeches. But this country is falling apart, and somebody has to pull the handbrake. What we realize is that we have a prime minister who, as the old people always say to us, they always say to us that you cannot run with the hares and hunt with the hounds at the same time. But we have a leader who is running with the hares and has leave Barbadians to hunt with the hounds in hunger. So while she is running with the hares, we have to be with the hounds in hunger. That is the prime minister that we voted for. That is the prime minister that says, give me the vote and watch me. But we were watching. We want to say to Miss Mortley tonight, and we want to say to the candidate for the BLP tonight, Kia McConney, who is running in this area, that we are watching. We are watching. So when they are going to come and say to you about the last decade, now they can't sing about the last decade anymore. They had the national anthem and they had a choir of 30. Now she is faced with a choir of 17 on one side singing alto and 13 on the other side singing bass. So she don't have, that is why there's nothing now about the last decade, because the choir divided, and that is why we having this election, because the choir is divided, 17 on one side and 13 on the other, 17 singing alto and the leader singing the bass. Okay. And as we said, that when they talk about the last decade, I want you to remember, that is why he said, listen, we having a conversation, we are going to talk tonight. The Democratic Labour Party, under the leadership of Dr. David Eswick as Minister of Agriculture, and the Health Minister John Boyce, as well as the Cabinet of Barbados, of which I was a member, when we realized that we had to send blood samples and other important materials to Trinidad and Florida to be tested, that Barbados did not have what we call a world-rated lab, we decided to build the Besto Santos lab. We decided to build it. And do you remember when the same Prime Minister Mayor Motley, along with members of our cabinet, along with Mary Redmond, along with the NUPW and the BWU, as well as some members of the Barbados Teachers Union, took the children from Ursuline Convent, from St. Winifred's, from St. Paul's Primary, and line off Colombo Rock in protest against the Besto Santos lab. Come on, people. They protested, blocked the entire Colombo Rock. And now, think about it. Had it not for the foresight of the Besto Santos lab, think about what Ebola would have done to Barbados. Think about what the SARS and about what COVID would have done to Barbados in these present circumstances, had it not for the foresight of the Democratic Labour Party, the foresight of Dr. David Eswick, the foresight of John Boyce, and the entire cabinet led by Faridel Jerome Stewart. And they criticize us. Not only that, we decided in the face of these challenges that you should have a multi-purpose facility. We built the Blackman and Gollop School, a multi-purpose facility that can be used for anything. We also built the School Meals Center in 6 rows that can cook 35,000 meals. We were criticized for it. We were severely criticized. They said that we were corrupt, that we were, as Bajans would put it, thief in the money. But had it not for the Blackman and Gollop School and the School Me Center in 6 rows, tell me what would have happened to Barbados in the face of Elsa, in the face of COVID-19, in the face of the Ebola, and the face of SARS. Tell me what would have happened to Barbados. And they're singing the last decade. But let them sing. That is why she rushed and hold the press conference to announce an election in the face of a republic, and in the face where we have a republic but we don't have a constitution. So you can imagine what happening to Barbados. I want you to think where your children are going, where your grandchildren are going. And it is sad and it is disrespectful that in 2022, the nurses of Barbados, the police officers, the defense force soldiers, the nurses who work in the QEH, those who work in the laundry room at the QEH, those who cook the meals for the persons who are isolated as a result of COVID-19, the Prime Minister stood up. The Prime Minister stood up and made a bold declaration when the first COVID-19 case struck Barbados. The Prime Minister held a press conference along with the Minister of Health and publicly declared to the people of Barbados that she was going to pay the police officers, that she was going to pay the soldiers, pay the frontline workers, pay the persons who work for the National Assistance Board. Those frontline workers who expose their grandchildren, who expose the children, who expose the husbands, who expose the wives, who expose the boyfriends to COVID. And she said she was going to pay $250. Now you want to tell me that the nurses and the frontline workers of Barbados should have been marching up and down the street in Barbados for $250 extra on their money? And this is a government that cares? But yet, she couldn't find $250 since 2020. But yet, she can find money to pay all of her high-priced consultants. She can find $15,000. She can find $30,000. She can find monies to put Paris in her office. She can find monies to do everything else except pay those persons $250. And now she is saying, oh, if you re-elect me, I am going to give the young people of Barbados $3,500 to help with the mortgage. Now, come on. Come on, people. You are going to give young people, if re-elected, $3,500 if they are purchasing a house and land. But $3,500 to do what? Tell me, well, that even isn't lawyer fees. That isn't even lawyer fees. And you are going to come up. That is why I say to you, lies, deceit, deception, communication, propaganda, and borrowed money. That is what it is. So when they are going to come down and says, if I get re-elected, I am going to allow 39,000 households in Barbados not to pay land tax. Oh my dear. You could, I mean, that would pain you to the core. That a prime minister who's supposed to be intelligent could say to Barbadians, re-elect me, and I am going to waive and remove the taxes from 39,000 Barbadians. Why you didn't do it in 2018? When you reduce the taxes for the big companies in Barbados, when you reduce the 25% corporation tax from 25% all the way to 5% to a minimum of 2.5, why you didn't liquidate and remove the land tax for 39,000 people? Why you didn't do it? But you said after the election, like we are stupid. But you know, my father always said to me, and I like to repeat it. He always said to me, son, let me say something to you. You're not going to find this in any textbook. You're not going to find this written in any Bible. But I want you to know that if you go to breakfast with the devil, don't expect to skip lunch. If you go to breakfast with the devil, don't forget to skip lunch. You're not going to skip lunch. So the Prime Minister is telling us, vote for me. Vote for Keir McConney. Vote for the Barbados Labour Party. Forget all what happened between 2018 and now. And I am going to remove all your land taxes. So no more land tax bills incoming for 39,000 people. Utter nonsense. Financial madness. Come on, people. That is why I say we are going to have a conversation. I want to have a conversation with you tonight. So I am taking my time. A patient man rides donkey. A patient man, my friends, rides donkey. So I am going to take my time and explain to you why it is that you should vote for Dr. David Eswick come January 19th and allow Keir McConney to ease back under the rock from which he crawled. You have a candidate you have a candidate who wants to come, and you can have a prime minister telling you that if you vote for Kerr McConney, you're going to have management skills. You're going to have all of these skills, but if you vote for Dr. David Eswick, you're going to have entertainment. Now let me say something to you, and it says I'm going to touch on it. When they talk about deceit, deception, lies, and communication propaganda, the current candidate that wants to represent you in Parliament, Kerr McConney. Kerr McConney lived all of her life outside of Barbados. You hear what I'm telling you? She went to school in Barbados and lived all of her life outside of Barbados. If you ask Kerr McConney where Carrington factory is, she can't show you. If you ask Kerr McConney with 3 houses, she can't tell you. She came back to Barbados now that she is near retirement. All of these years, can't remember nothing. And what I found really insulting and amazing, that they asked Kerr McConney, what are your plans for 6 roads? What are your plans to develop 6 roads? And you know what she said? Remove Princess Margaret Secondary School and put it in the industrial park where you got to be the biggest idiot in the world. And Bill removed, now listen to this. Listen to the nonsense. One of your plans is to relocate Princess Margaret School. You ever went in Princess Margaret? It's how big Princess Margaret School is? A massive place. And you are going to put Princess Margaret Secondary School that produce persons of my caliber, David Eswick, Trevor Clark, Jehu Wilcher. I'm going to start and call names. Dennis Clark that had the NUPW, Joseph Goddard. We can go through the list. We can go through outstanding athletes in Heather Good and Gretchen Bailey, Pat Nurse. And you can tell me that one of your great plans would be to relocate Princess Margaret and put it in the industrial park. What type of clown you could be? And if so, you stayed outside of Barbados. Never was a member of any committee. Never was a member of a social club in Barbados. Never bought a postcard for a child in Barbados. Never held a Christmas party nowhere in Barbados. Don't even know. If you said to her, tell me where Featherbed Lane in Barbados, can't tell you. But now that you are near retirement and you want something to put on your headstone before you die, to say, oh, I represented people in Barbados. And that is why I say to you, Dr. Eswick have been tried and tested. That is what representation is all about. Not just pack your bags and fly into Barbados because that you're a friend of the Prime Minister. And the Prime Minister looking for a yes woman in cabinet. And amended the laws to suit her to get into the Senate. But undermine John King. Undermine John King. And was John, you know what was insulting? Was John King was in Parliament giving glowing speeches about he as the representative. The Prime Minister was driving Kerr McConney up and down, telling people that she is the next representative. And John in Parliament. Up and down St. Philip West, when he decided to come eating black pudding and sauce and pickled sea cat. And John King is telling people, oh, he want to put a hard court here, he want to put street lights yonder, and the Prime Minister is saying, put where? This is my choice. So I wasn't surprised. But what we have in Barbados is no total disrespect for the people. Total disrespect. We are now in the clutches of the IMF. In the clutches of the IMF. The IMF is at our door. This is the same government that speaks to accountability. This is the same government that speaks of transparency. But I want to tell you something tonight. That what they are hiding from you, and I have repeated it at Lynch's, I have repeated it at Harlington, I have repeated it at Martins Bay, I have repeated it at Foster Hall tonight, and I am going to repeat it here on Chapel Pasture. And I am saying to you, I want the Prime Minister, I want Ryan Strachan, Kevin Greenwich, Avinash Prasad, Clyde Maskell, who seems to fall somewhere. He is somewhere in some hole. You can't hear him. This is the man that tell you you can't tax your way out of a recession. I want Marsha Carroll to come and say, Jepta Ince, you are a liar. I want them to come and I can challenge them anywhere on any social media platform. My friends, this is a document that from the IMF that they're hiding from the people of Barbados. Okay. This is a document and it says from 1984 to November 30th, 2021. You know what the IMF is? I want to tell you the IMF is at our door. This is a balance sheet on Barbados. This is what they have been hiding from you. And if they want to let them go to District C, let them go to Central, let them go to Oysters and come and get a search warrant and search my house. I live at Chapel number 4. I live at Chapel number 4. The gloves, I said it telling them tonight, the gloves off. So I can hit them my knuckles. You're going to feel it. Come January 19th, they're going to feel it. This is the balance sheet. You know what the balance sheet says? And this is what they want Barbados. They don't want us to know. Look, Mia, wait to the IMF in 2018, and I'm going to tell you how much money that they borrowed. I'm going to give you the amount. I want Kevin Greenwich to come and say, Jepta, you're lying. Where you get that document from? It is here. And if any of you want to take a picture of it and put on social media, you are free to have it, because I can stay up in any court and any of them face and says, get from in front of me. And as the Prime Minister says, go to thy aunt, thou slugger. Consider her ways and be wise. I'm telling you, when I say to you, I am having a conversation. The gloves off. So they're going to feel my weight from now until January the 19th. Kitty McConney is going to, when they call her to canvass in this area or in St. Philip West, she's going to say, no, I have a cold. Ain't coming out. Look. They are so lying and deceitful. And that is why I said the 5 principles. That they want to run in this country on borrowed money. And I ain't get to China yet. I ain't get to the Chinese money yet and why the houses in 6 rows. We having a conversation tonight. A conversation, my friend. Mayor Amar Mortley went to the IMF in 2018. And the first thing she did in 2018, according to the balance sheet, she borrowed $35 million. The IMF don't lie. I got this from the IMF. Tell them come for me. And tell me, ask where I got it. Let them come. She borrowed $35 million. She went in 2019 and took out another $70 million. This is US dollars, you know. That nobody in Barbados say no about. Then she went in 2020 and took out $166 million. Look around Barbados and tell me where the money gone. And in 2021, up to November 30th, 2021, she took out 17 million US. No, don't be in a hurry. I did the arithmetic for you, not math, arithmetic. When you add all of those, you get a total of 388 million US dollars that Mayor Martley borrowed from the IMF. This ain't nothing to do with China money that she borrowed. This ain't nothing to do with the Caribbean Development Bank money that she borrowed in 3 years. This is nothing to do with the World Bank money that she borrowed in 3 years. That is why I say to them, come after me. 388 million US. No. 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 You know that 2 US dollars equals 1 Barbados. When you multiply 388 by 2, you arrive at 776 million Barbados dollars that Mayor Amar Martley and her cabinet borrowed from the IMF in 3 years. Look around Barbados, people. Look around Barbados and tell me what you see for 776 million dollars. But what is interesting is that she also borrowed in December. You remember that? You know she went back to the IMF in December and January and borrowed another 44 million. And if you borrow 44 million US between January and December and January, that is another 88 million Barbados dollars. You know what the total is that we borrowed as of today's date? 864 million. 864 million Barbados dollars that Barbados borrowed from the IMF. My friends, 64 and 32 is 100. We are $132 million short of $1 billion. I'm going to repeat it. We are $132 million short of $1 billion, and the financial year has not ended as yet. The financial year for Barbados are going to end on the 30th of March, 2022. 2022. And it's going to start the 1st of April. And this is what we voted for. I am saying to you, is that the IMF is at our door. That is why she is saying, oh, tough decisions have to be made, so vote for me. I am going to make those tough decisions. The IMF is at our door. Expect more taxes. That is why she cannot bring a budget, because she is trying to run from the IMF and running into the arms of China. So from one lover to the next. One lover is going to give you wine, and the next lover is going to give you sweet bread. So she is dodging the IMF. I want to say to you, my friends, there is no country in the world, I'm going to repeat it, there is no country in the world that defaulted on its international loans, went to the IMF for a full program and did not have a devaluation. It either came early or it came late. And that's why I say to you, I want you to listen. A lot of people hear, but they don't listen. So I have to repeat it. There is no country in the world that defaulted on its loans, means don't pay, went to the IMF for a full program and did not have a devaluation. It either came early or it came late. And the reason why I say that, and let me tell you why I say it. The IMF has a note at the bottom of this balance sheet. You know what the note says? I'm going to tell you what the note says. I'm going to read it for you. Let me read it. It says here, when a member has overdue financial obligations for more than 3 months, the amount of such arrears will be shown in this section. It means Barbados have not paid the IMF for 2018, 2019, 2020. That is why we have arrears. But look, if we allow Mayor Martley and her cabinet to remain in office and implement those IMF measures, I am saying to you that the IMF are going to remove the stomach of Barbadians with a dull razor. Telling you. They are going to remove our stomachs with a dull razor. And that is why that she made arrangements to adjust the pensions of Barbadians. It is all in here that she made arrangements to adjust with the IMF to adjust the pensions of Barbadians. Now tell me, when the DLP was in office, every month your grandparents, grandfather, grandmother, your uncle got their pension. We have never seen in Barbados before where the month of December just gone and you have pensioners in Barbados did not get a pension for the entire month but had to wait until January. And this is what we talk about when we talk about transparency, accountability. All of these things that a prime minister is going to tell the people of Barbados, and then is going to come now and says, vote for me. Vote for me. And this is what I'm going to give you. When they sold Barbados in 3 years. One of the biggest insults to our artisans is the importation of those houses from China. We have in 6 rows 140 40-foot containers sitting in 6 rows industrial park with houses from China. The Minister of Housing, Mr. Dugard, said that after 2 weeks the container arrived, that they're going to open the containers and start building the houses. You remember that? He says 2 weeks. Go up in 6 rows and see what is happening. Containers lock up with security guards. But the reason why that they cannot start as they want to is because that the houses have the wrong specifications. A scandal waiting to happen. You can imagine that they import houses from China and they know the right size of the houses. A scandal waiting to happen. So they are now scrambling trying to get the right specification for the houses and cutting all kind of, as Beijing will say, Obzaki foundation. All kind of madness. But the reason why that they imported those houses from China is because that the major companies in China has collapsed. They have defaulted on the debt. So what the Chinese government is doing is exporting what you call a crisis. They are exporting those houses to countries like Barbados so that we can pay in US dollars and then the US dollars goes back to China to bail out those companies. Now come on. And we have people in Barbados that brilliant. And a minister is going to say the reason why we did it is because that the artisans in Barbados are building the houses too slow. Now I forgive him. You have to forgive him. Because the reason why, if you look good at Mr. Dugard, he have lost a lot of weight over the last couple of months. So I believe that with the weight loss, it affected his brain. Because sometimes weight loss can affect you in different areas. So I believe that because he lost so much weight, he became too light in the brain. And that is why he said that, you know that is an insult. They have just dislocated, laid off, have just destroyed the lives of 3,500 artisans in Barbados. These are people who build houses. Masons, carpenters, electricians, laborers, painters have just destroyed their lives in favor and keeping a housing project in China afloat, in favor against Barbadians. And they are saying, oh, we love you. We love you. We want you to work on our behalf. Vote for the Democratic Labour Party. Vote for the Democratic Labour Party come January the 19th. We have to send Mayor Motley and her cabinet a message. We have to do that. Come on, people. That is why I say that we are having this conversation. They are the ones who tell you that it was the worst thing when we implemented solid waste tax. You remember that? When we say to Barbadians that you are going to pay a solid waste tax for 1 year And the maximum that any Barbadian could pay is $450 a year. The private sector march. They got all of us to march against the solid waste tax. They implemented a garbage tax and now a sewage tax. And not one of you not connected to the sewage system, but paying a sewage tax every month, every year. And none of you, since those taxes, do not have a water bill less than $100. Bring it and show me. Bring it and show me. And the persons who are benefiting from that tax are the big hotel owners on the South Coast. They are the ones attached to the system. The big hotel owners on the West Coast with their fancy condominiums and townhouses, they are the ones benefiting from the sewage system. But you know what? If your well overflow tonight, if your septic tank back up tonight, whether you in Breezy Hill, Halton Terrace, Chapel, Cox Hill, Church Village, Featherbell Lane, Sunbury, if your well overflow tonight or your septic tank back up, you cannot call water authority. You got to call Jose, or you got to call Polly at Mangrove and paid Polly or Jose $800 or $1,500, depends on what it is, to get your well and septic tank clear. But the big owners on the South Coast are enjoying a tax that you paying for. That's what they're doing. So when you hear the general manager of Water Authority is saying to you that Water Authority is owed all of these millions of dollars in taxes, in water rates, it isn't you or I that owe that money. We pay our water bills. The small family in Halton Terrace pay the water bills every month because we are scared. Because they're going to come and disconnect your bill for $100. But going to leave on the big hotel owners who owe $50,000. They're going to leave on them in the name of tourism. That is the kind of nonsense that this government is allowing to happen. So they allow them to enjoy the taxes and we pay the penalty for a sewage system that not one of us is connected to. And that is the type of government. That is the type of government that we voted for. But come January the 19th, my friends, things are going to change. Things are going to happen. You have to go and exercise that vote, exercise your right. Put that vote against Dr. David Eswick. A vote for Dr. David Eswick is a vote for the Democratic Labour Party, and a vote for the Democratic Labour Party is to remove Mayor Amar Mortley and her cabinet from office, because they want to run this country, as I said before, on 5 principles: lies, deceit, deception, communication, propaganda, and borrowed money. Cannot work. Cannot work. So we have a job ahead of us. Don't let anybody fool you. We can do it. The Democratic Labour Party can do it. We have the skill to do it. We have the knowledge to do it. We have the know-how. We have been there for you. Whenever this country is at a crossroad, whenever your families are challenged, when your businesses are threatened, the Democratic Labour Party is in office. And it's important that you reflect. We were in office in 1966 when we took this country to independence against the colonial masters. We were in office in 1973 to 1976 when we had the worst oil crisis in the world. And we had to battle and implement price protocols. We were in office between 1991 and 1994 when we had the world recession and we had the currency crisis. So Lloyd Erskine Sandiford was Prime Minister. We were in office between 2008 and 2018 when the late David Thompson was the Prime Minister. And then Faradell Jerome Stewart, a man with cool hands and a level head took us through what they now call the world greatest recession. The Barbados Labour Party said there was no recession, but now they're telling you about one. And under the leadership of Stuart, we were able to stabilize prices, protect families, maintain businesses, maintain the foreign reserves without borrowing, because we said we were not going to borrow for the foreign reserves unless it was absolutely necessary. And we didn't. But the people went to the polls and gave her a mandate. So when you go to the polls on January the 19th, you must look at what happened and give the Democratic Labour Party a mandate to govern this country. So on January the 19th, my friends, on January 19th, I want you to do something. I want you, if you got a donkey, tie it. If you got a mule, put it in the pen. Make sure that your chickens feed. Make sure the hog pen secure properly, that nobody can call you and say, the pig get out here, got to run and leave. Make sure that all of these things happen. Because on January the 19th is going to be a historic day in Barbados. On January the 19th, we are going to reflect, my people, we are going to reflect on what has happened. We're going to reflect on the lies. The lies about giving the workers at the gas station boots and clothes. Do you remember that? We're going to reflect on the deception of what happened. We're going to reflect when they talk about accountability and transparency. We're going to reflect on the deceit. By surrounding ourselves with high-paid consultants, just like what Farah and the Brucanaza did. But yet, with all of the high-paid consultants, Farah and the Brucanaza ended with nothing. But we in Barbados, we are going to make sure that we end with something. Communications propaganda reflect on that. And the borrowed money from China and from the IMF. And where we are and where we're supposed to go. This is what I want for Barbados. I want a beautiful Barbados. I want a Barbados that our children and our great-grands, when we have departed, my friends, from this earth, when we have finished our journey and we go to the great beyond, that our children and grandchildren can stay up in the morning and smile and says, this is the beautiful Barbados. We do not want a Barbados with no God. We do not want a Barbados where we're going to remove God from the Charter of Barbados. Because if you remove God from the Charter of Barbados, you have troubled my character. Because once you interfere with the Charter, you have disturbed the character of the country. So when a leader can say to you, to forget God, it means that if you want me to remove God and forget God, you have to give me the devil. Well, come on, people. Come on. And this is what Barbados is all about. So on January the 19th, as I said, tie your goat, tie your sheep, lock your house. If you have to carry your cat with you, carry your cat. If you have to walk with the grandchildren, walk with the grandchildren. Because come January the 19th, vote for the Democratic Labour Party. Vote for Dr. David Eswick. A vote for Dr. David Eswick is a vote for Barbados. It's a vote for managing this country with efficiency, honesty, and good character. My friends, Have a good evening. God bless you. And it was a pleasure having this conversation. Thank you.
David Eswick. He was always my representative, and he will be my representative until he says different.
Yeah, I know David Eswick to be a very good man. I met him personally, and the conversations we had really showed me that he's a man that willing to do for anybody that can help bring up themselves the same way. You understand?
Yes, he's always for the constituents, and he's always for all. He's very vibrant, and again, you can talk to him, you can get assistance from him. He's good for the constituency, for Barbados, and for all.
He used to always look out for the people. Like, anytime you get to read, he would never say no. That's one thing for sure I know as growing up. His energy is just a vibe, and I will always vote for you, though. And it's always for you, David, always.
I know David for a long time, man. David always around every shop corner, Breton, Sunbury, even Six Rose, Ebenezer. I never left you out. Give you anything at all. You can't be hungry when Mr. Eswick.
David is a proper man. He's good and he always around the fellows. And he was ever a proper man to the fellows in the Constituency.
Every time he lets you come, David all the time. David all the time. David all the time. David all the time.
I know David from the time he was born. He has always been very progressive, knowledgeable, and caring. I, Keith Allen, is always for you, David.
Always for you.
Always for you.
Always for you.
Always for you. Always for you. Always for you. Always for you. Always for you. David Eswick. Always for you, David Eswick. Jesus.
Biggity. The best pick is Eswick. The best pick is Eswick. The best pick is Eswick. Tell me who's the best pick? David Eswick. Make way for the people's champ, the only ones in Philip West one. Tell me who's the best pick? David Eswick. St. Philip people know this is true. Eswick always for you. Tell me who's the best pick? David Eswick. In transport and water, agriculture, economic affairs, he helped build this nation for years. He sweat yellow and blue. Eswick always for you. So F-U-C-K, tell she I say the best pick is Eswick. The best pick is Eswick. The best pick is Eswick. Tell me who's the best pick? David Eswick. Tell me who's the best pick? David Eswick. Who said Philip Westwick? David Eswick. Biggity. The best pick is Eswick. The best pick is Eswick. The best pick is Eswick. Tell me who's the best pick? David Eswick. Make way for the people's champ, the only ones in Philip West one. Tell me who's the best pick? David Eswick. St. Philip people know this is true. Eswick always for you. Tell me who's the best pick? David Eswick. In transport and water, agriculture, economic affairs, he helped build this nation for years. He sweat yellow and blue. Eswick always for you. So F-U-C-K, tell she I say the best pick is Eswick. The best pick is Eswick. The best pick is Eswick. Tell me who's the best pick? David Eswick. Tell me who's the best pick? David Eswick. Who said Philip Westwick? David Eswick. Biggity. The best pick is Eswick. The best pick is Eswick. The best pick is Eswick. Tell me who's the people's champ. The only ones in Philip West one. Tell me who's the best pick? David Eswick. St. Philip people know this is true. Eswick always for you. Tell me who's the best pick? David Eswick. In transport and water, agriculture, economic affairs. He helped build this nation for years. He sweat yellow and blue. Eswick always for you. So F-U-C-K, tell she I say the best pick is Eswick. The best pick is Eswick. The best pick is Eswick. Tell me who's the best pick? David Eswick. Tell me who's the best pick? David Eswick. Who say Philip Westwick?
To introduce to you a well-known individual, former minister, economist, lecturer, to talk to you tonight about a way forward with Barbados and what to expect. That person is no other than Anthony Wood, former representative MP for St. Philip South. And I want you, as before, to listen to what he has to say. Thank you very much. And I turn over the podium to...
Okay.
Our DJ, cut it down. Good night, ladies and gentlemen. You folks seem excited and ready to receive me. But I can tell you up front that I'm not going to disappoint you, right? Up front. Those of you who were in St. Martin's last night, well, I had a good time, eh? Well, I can give you a better one tonight. Last night I gave you an hour and 5 minutes of my time. How much will I want tonight? Will I want me to talk for myself and talk for the dot? Okay, let the show begin. I just step off a stage over in Ruby Tenantry, speaking on behalf of the Marshal. It was okay. That was the first meeting for us. But when they say us, I can't leave out the dot because now that I've mounted these Democratic Labour Party platforms, Michael, David, and Neil constitute part of us, or I constitute part of them. But as I stand here, the playing field is not in the condition that it used to be in. When I journeyed from 4 rows over here, we played a lot of cricket. So I do have a close attachment to many a person who we oppose right there on that playing field. We won some of the matches and we lost some of the matches. But we had a good camaraderie before, during, and after the match. And I can assure you a lot of liming and drinking took place in this place, but it wasn't like that. But I know that there are good people living in Chapel. Those who have joined you in more recent time in Breezy Hill, they're good persons too. But I want all of you to listen carefully to what I have to say tonight. And I want you to understand that when you come to these political meetings, now this country has reached an extremely critical juncture in its governance. And governance is a multidimensional concept, but it has reached a critical juncture in its governance. And we are at a point now, if the wrong choice is made on January the 19th, and persons have not searched their conscience enough to remove the Barbados Labour Party under Mayor Motley from the stewardship of this country, we will indeed be forever sorry for not doing that. And I start there because I am beseeching you all. And as my speech unfolds, you will see the precise reasons why I tell you that we have to remove this high-handedness, this wickedness, this deceit, this hypocrisy, this propaganda machine. These people who feel they have a divine right to do what they feel like in this country under the stewardship of Mayor Motley. I had an option, you know. Having resigned from the Barbados Labour Party, a party that I was in for 36 years, I had an option to walk away from these types of exercises and say, let them fight it out. Let them fight it out. But I have a conscience. My conscience first ensured that I part company with the Barbados Labour Party. First, disassociated myself from Indaria via a public disclaimer notice. But our conscience also, on the 26th of June last year, caused me to walk away from the Barbados Labour Party, never, ever to go back in that direction. But our conscience also told me that I cannot sit on the sidelines with Ms. Motley having called the election about 18 months early because there is something amiss. And because I am raising my family, and my wife and I, we have 2 daughters, and they're deep into their educational journey here in Barbados, my conscience tells me that I need to come off the sidelines and partner with the Democratic Labour Party to indeed use best efforts to put this country back on track and for Barbadians to take back what belonged to them from Motley in this despotic approach to leadership, which makes her think that she is a maximum leader and that she can do whatever she feels like in this country. She can tell people whatever she wants, tell them in this country. She can talk down to big men and intelligent men and women whenever she feel like and however she feel like, and we supposed to lap it up because she is a despot, and that's how despotic people behave. But I want to tell you, just like one after, back in 2013 when he left, he gave a wonderful interview. At the steps of Parliament, Peter Thorne interviewed him. And it was on the occasion when they dismissed unceremoniously Dr. Maria Ergard from the Barbados Labour Party. And Arthur warned them, he warned us. But the first time I saw that video clip, when Arthur warning Barbadians about what to expect from under the leadership of Mayor Motley, believe it or not, it was after the 2018 election, and it was after, worse yet, I resigned from the Barbados Labour Party. So that when I resigned from the Barbados Labour Party, before I heard the video clip, I got to experience what Mr. Arthur was warning Barbadians to expect from the leadership of Mayor Motley. And all I can tell my friends now, and they're numerous as you would expect, right? That one Arthur spoke like a prophet when he warned Barbadians what to expect from Miss Motley's leadership way back in 2013. Everything he tells us to expect, I saw with my own two eyes what it is he was talking about. And it pains me that an institution that I spent so much time in and that I gave so much to and I gave so much for by way of sacrifice could be reduced to nothing under the command and the rulership of Mayor Motley. And the Barbados Labour Party has been reduced to nothing. Has been reduced to nothing. A party that we all held up so high. A party that stood and lived out its foundational principles. A better life for its people, grounded firm in the convictions of Gatley Adams, has indeed now been reduced to a plaything of an individual. So the Barbados Labour Party now is Mayor Motley Party. But it could not be Mayor Motley Party and I stay in it. Because during the last general election campaign, we heard a lot. And you know, what this experience and what was heard and the vilification that we gave to the Democratic Labour Party and some of its key members, this experience post-2018 has reminded us in very clear and unambiguous terms that do not judge a person by what they say, but judge them by what they do. And if this leadership in just under 4 years by Motley cannot indeed cause you to firmly believe that do not judge her by what she says, but judge her by what she does. The most hypocritical experience that has been brought to any generation in Barbados has been delivered by the Barbados Labour Party under the leadership of Mayor Motley. And this message has to be profound. It has to be direct. And you have to internalize it. And you cannot keep it to yourself. Never mind the meeting is being streamed. Do not keep the message to yourself. Because the message is a message of truth. It is a message that is preparing you all for Deliverance Day on January the 19th. And you must make sure that you send a clear message to Miss Motley and the BLP, with the BLP in much with Fauci, that this country belongs to all of us. And she could only run roughshod over the people in this country until the voting comes on January the 19th. I have said over in Lynch's, and I'm going to say it again, this is a very important election. Not just with the Democratic Labour Party trying to win back some seats, and I hope they win enough to form the government. But this election is much bigger than Eswick having a small contest with Kay McConney, or Michael having a contest with Dr. Sonia Brown. This election takes on a much bigger proportion and context. Because this is an election where we, the ordinary people in Barbados who have been spoken down to, rights trampled, we unfair. This is an opportunity for us to say enough is enough, and we are going to fight tooth and nail to get back what belongs to us from that wicked set of people called the Barbados Labour Party, take back the country, help Barbados to regain its soul and its way, and let us bring back some more decent, all-inclusive and respectable leadership in Barbados by a ruling administration. That is what this election is about, over and beyond this contest between Dr. Eswick and Kay McConney. I'm not going to stand here and tell you that because Kay McConney is a relative unknown in every part of St. Philip West. She born in Duncans, which is fairly close to the border of St. Philip South. She spent a lot of time overseas. The BLP win the last election and Motley hold up the show until she returned home to hand on a platter a ministerial position to someone who participated in no measurable way to the Barbados Labour Party winning the last election. So that first and foremost told you the metal of which Miss Motley is made. So because Kay is a relative unknown, I'm not going to be unkind to Kay. I don't know Kay. I know of her. I know her sister and her person and Bernard who passed away. And some of the others I know her parents and things, but I don't know Kay that well. She must have some sort of ability. As I said out in St. Martin's, I heard Motley struggling. I read about Motley struggling to introduce Kay to the people of St. Philip West. As I said in St. Martin's last night, these special skills that Kay McConney has. And she going on and on. And you know these special skills never connected, even in a glancing way, with Kay doing anything for any community or anybody in St. Philip West. Special skills. Special skills to go and work in Canada for all these years. Special skills to live outside of Barbados and play her trade. But the special skills you want for politics is like the special skills that I brought to politics. Coming out of the bosom of the community, David Eswick coming out of the bosom of the community and making good of the educational system and gaining these special skills and never leaving the community having acquired these special skills. So that was indeed my route to politics, with the firm belief that we should only enter politics for one and one reason, and that is to stop poor people from being poor. Anything after that is a bonus. I entered with that in mind, and I left a legacy over there in stopping poor people from being poor. And so I entered with that in mind, and before he was unceremoniously removed, he stopped poor people from being poor, but we did many other things at the national, regional, in hemispheric and international level by virtue of participation in projects and issues at that grand level. But let me remind you that to whom a lot is given, a lot is indeed expected. We heard the slogan, and a clown like me got involved in it too. Give me the vote and watch me. And time and again, get you the vote and watch you. And we get you the vote, I encourage thousands of people across Barbados to get you the vote and watch you. And we watch carefully. I watched the destruction of the country. I watched the breakdown in governance to the point that after 2 years I had to leave the Barbados Labour Party. So I know what I saw. And I can tell one about some of the things I saw because I could no longer be associated with that institution that I could recognize. So I had to leave. So she got the vote and we still watching she. We're watching further and further and further destruction of the economy and the society. Barbados is now run by a government without any moral fabric. Without any moral fabric. And you know, when morality is taken out of the running of a country, that is a country that is doomed to failure and further destruction. A lot of things have happened. To justify what I'm going to say and why I say that, let me see if I can pull some of the things down. I got all sorts of things floating around my head. So I got to see which ones are going to bring out at what time. But I have a good message here. Let me start at hypocrisy. Let me start at hypocrisy and deceit. The last election, the Barbados Labour Party promised a new era in transparency and accountability and a better standard of governance. Those words sound sweet, né? And they sound catchy. Because if you keep repeating them often enough, people will start to believe that what they're saying is true, you know. You repeat it often enough. And then they get these allegations of corruption against the Democratic Labour Party, how it flares. So then, they throw things out. They promise to lock up them if they get enough evidence. But then we had some promises also that if you give the Barbados Labour Party a try, that all those who were involved, alleged to be involved, in these incestuous relationships with the Democratic Labour Party, that their time would have been up in a meaningful way in terms of having lucrative contracts from the government and paid for by the taxpayers. And the companies were identified. I can repeat some of them. The most vilified member of Barbadian society in the last election campaign was a man called Mark Maloney. Most vilified man. This man took so much blows. And when the Barbados Labour Party came to power, we were to have a new, with a pigmentation like mine and yours, not like Maloney, and put them on a trajectory where they will be accessing plenty of the government contracts, and what they didn't get under the DLP, they were promised under the BLP. Hypocrisy, lies, deceit, propaganda, and I dare say bullshit too. And you have lived to see. The man who is indeed creaming off the largest contracts from the government, sometimes the sums that he's able to get contracts for are indeed mind-boggling. A man who had served his time based on his relationship with the DLP. But you know, another true saying is that what goes around comes around. And just have enough patience and it will come right around. But you know, something else coming around too. Something else coming around. The same way that Mark Maloney was vilified and his companies in the last general election campaign. And you let me and Mayor and Dale and all of them get into your hearts and your minds to say that enough is enough. And the DLP got dismissed. These are the same people who are in the same position, or indeed a worse position, because their relationship with Maloney and his companies is even worse. So you know, just what you did for them last election, you got to do against them in this election for the level of hypocrisy and deceit that they brought to you in the last election campaign. And I'm not mixing my words because I live in Barbados and I raised my family right here in Barbados. And what you do to one, you got to do back to you. Because if you say something, you should hold your word. And if you don't hold your word, nobody has a duty to vote for you again. Get rid of all of them. Not just Eswick getting rid of Kay. And Neil getting rid of Weir. And Michael getting rid of Roe. But the deceit and the hypocrisy transcended all corners in all districts in Barbados. So there's no reason why St. Philip should say this is payback time and St. Philip only. It is payback time for Christchurch. It is payback time for St. Michael. And as they head further down in the north, reaching St. Lucie, it is payback time for them as well. So get on the phone, tell the people living outside of Chapel in Breezy Hill that it is payback time for the Barbados Labour Party, for the hypocrisy and the deceit. But a lot of things have gone wrong since the last election. A lot of things. We have serious concerns about the spending of the taxpayers' money with their having a conviction that they don't have to explain anything. They don't have to probably account for it. And there are numerous examples, not only me here. I may be steeply trained in finance and economics, and it places me in a position to have real concerns about how this money is being spent in Barbados here. But you, it is your money just as much as mine here. You must have concerns about people spending your money, and when you ask them to account, they'll tell you, man, go for wrong me. Account for what? Be in charge. If you don't like it, get rid of me. But they ain't going to show you know. Because they come up with a slogan. What they say? Stay the course, you know. You can imagine a group of people bring a country to its knees and tell you to stay the course. You understand what staying the course means? Staying the course means allowing despotic leadership to continue. Staying the course means social implosion in Barbados. Staying the course means those at the top creaming off what they want through lucrative contracts from the government and through their own means to advance their business acumen. Staying the course means that the cost of living in Barbados can continue to rise and rise and rise, and that poor people, the less fortunate, will continue to suffer and suffer and suffer. That's what staying the course means. Staying the course means that you're going to allow Motley to come on television when she feels like and talk down to you and lie to you. That's what staying the course means. Staying the course means that the Auditor General will continue to write that these people need to account for the decisions that they're making involving the use of taxpayers' money. That's what staying the course means. Staying the course means that as some deals don't fall through the cracks, that one of Maloney's hastily arranged companies called Radical Investments Limited would have gotten the opportunity to bring in vaccines in Barbados to distribute to St. Lucia, Bahamas, and Barbadians, and walking away with a handsome profit, one calculation of in excess of $20 million. That's what staying the course means. Staying the course means that when Motley is in the mood to go to these high-level summits and conferences, like COP26, carrying a delegation of 15 people, just as large as the West Indies cricket team, 11 plus 4 reserves, to go up there and glorify her in making his speech, and that delegation costing almost $400,000 at a time when many people in Barbados can't get food to eat. No jobs. Can't get food to eat, no control of the price of living, cost of living, and these people got the colossal gall to tell you to stay the course. Well, let me tell you something. I have lived in St. Philip almost all my life. Take out the years that I've been overseas studying. And I know that I've interacted and I've done things with some very intelligent people. And they know that we can't stay the course, we need a different course. And we need a different course not under Motley, we need a different course under the Democratic Labour Party, and we need a different course with David Eswick, Michael and Neil being sent to the House Assembly and help to shape public policy so that we get another course. You see that course with Motley? That course with Motley is a course for destruction to Barbados. Get off that course and get on to another course. Some of the decisions that were made involving the use of the money in Barbados are mind-boggling, as I said. You all remember when the Four Seasons Hotel was supposed to be resuscitated, and Richard Seeley and David Thompson, before he died, they made this attempt. Put together this team that was supposed to go and get some private funding for the hotel. And sometimes I have to say, am I living in the right place? When the Barbados Labour Party took over, Clearwater Hotel Company, the company that was in charge of the Four Seasons project, that company was indebted to the government being a continuum, to the tune of, listen to me now, to the tune of $124 million. You understand we're not talking about chicken feet? And you know, when the Barbados Labour Party took over, the Treasury was a little slight of funds. And you know one of the first acts of business that this Motley administration did, without any explanation then or without any explanation now, you can imagine that they wrote off $124 million owed to the Barbados government by that company. And while that was happening, there was the imposition of the garbage collection and sewage tax on every account holder with the Barbados Water Authority. Could you imagine that? And when you read the Auditor General report, the Auditor General wants to know what is the rationale for writing off this money. And you know, even the Auditor General asked for that, and these people still didn't find any explanation. A whole set of money, let me give you another example. A whole set of money was spent on this recent transition to a republic. I mean, it was real fanfare. You all remember that? A whole millions of dollars spent on a transition to a republic. And you know, not a single person in Barbados, besides those on the inner circle, knows how much money was spent on those celebratory activities for Barbados transitioning to a republic. But I remember, on the occasion of the 50th anniversary of our independence, poor Fernell Stewart, he was pillared, Chris Sinclair was pillared, to identify the amount of funds the Barbados government was spending on the 50th anniversary celebrations in Barbados. And Mr. Stewart produced the information. We asked Motley, man, tell us how much of our money you spend on the thing there. And that has been brushed aside. I don't have to tell you how much money we spend on it. on the celebration. We're in charge and we spend the money how we feel like. Yes, we are in favor of the thing of transitioning to the Republic. But we wanted a referendum on it. We didn't get that either. Because we will make decisions. If you don't like it, lump it or like it. We don't have to account for anything. Account for what? So that is the type of governance that we have here. And they're telling me to stay the course. With that, we're, after 3 years coming up now, the Barbados government, Mayor being the finance minister, we can get a financial statement and budgetary proposals when under every previous leader, we had a budget every year. So we can track how things, the fiscal route that the country had passed, and we can indeed look forward to what is planned by way of fiscal projections and how money will be raised and money will be spent via a budget. This is almost unbelievable. It takes somebody with a special type of heart to do what is being done to Barbadians in the name of governance in this country. You must have a very special heart, a heart that is harder and worse, but firmer than Pharaoh's, man, to be treating Barbadians the way Miss Motley is treating us, and then telling us to stay the course, and for me to sit back defenseless and let this type of governance continue. It ain't happening. And I want you all to rise up, go and vote on the 19th, and ensure that an end is brought to this type of governance. This is not who we are. She liked them catchphrases. This is not who we are. What is happening to us by way of governance, this is not who we are. Let us get back to decency. Let us get back to respect and governance in this country. Let me quickly deal with the subject. And it relates to the calling of an election in the middle of a pandemic, 18 months early. Yes, I care for the country. Yes, I will do my part to enlighten Barbadians that we need to get on to a different course. But every night I left home, I put my life at risk. Every time I leave home, I put my life at risk. In the middle of a pandemic, we should be very careful with how we interact with people. And every day I out there canvassing, I'm interacting with people. I gotta be extremely careful. I come on at night, it's a good thing that this stage is really far from people. And my life is being put at risk because of reckless and selfish behavior on the part of despotic Motley. And we should not be going through this. You must have a little more empathy and sympathy and kindness in how you treat your Barbadians. But after all, you're the leader of the country. And how you can do something in the name of selfishness and recklessness and nastiness and deceit to put so many people's lives at risk, including hers. Because she obviously has to be a higher flyer than me because she's in charge of a party. So she got to crisscross the country even more than me. You mean you can put your own life at risk in the interest of selfishness? You could be so reckless and putting my life at risk and expect that I would not come and tell the people to vote you out. Everybody's life she put at risk. Before she called the snap election, this thing was under control, management of the virus. You know the number of cases after that spurt in September and October and November. 27 cases of deaths in September, 78 deaths from coronavirus in October, 75 in November. And then we had a leveling off. So December we started to see some material progress. So the day she called the election, the number of positive cases for the day before You know it was in the 60s. And then, in the name of letting tourists enjoy themselves in Barbados, come, this is a place where you can do as you like. Come and enjoy yourself. I started coming. So, you relax the restrictions. Yeah, remove the curfew. You shorten the curfew. Man, go and enjoy yourself. Reckless and lawless behavior. So the cases went from 62 and 67 when she called the election. 227. 247. 257. 538. 497. 467. And now yesterday 407. And while the cases are going so, we're in the middle of an election campaign. And we out here risking our lives every single night in the name of justice and fairness in Barbados. And you can tell me that that isn't a good reason to punish the Barbados Labour Party for risking people's lives in the middle of a pandemic in the name of selfishness and lawlessness and the belief that you can do as you like in this country. It cannot work. It cannot work. I would need to take this message that I am giving you all seriously because it is profound and it is serious. You need to go and tell your friends and your families, don't care where they live, that this type of nastiness and selfishness and recklessness should be punished in the best possible way. And that is to dismiss Kay McConney in the manner in which she deserves. Over in the other two constituencies that will happen. But help the others living elsewhere in Christchurch and St. Michael. You could return a woman to power who caused an election in the name of selfishness and greed and lawlessness and recklessness and put people's lives at risk. A couple of days ago, it's a good thing that my brain's still working good. So I can come out here and talk for hours and hours and I don't have to bother about what is where and where the papers are. But let me tell you something. A couple of days ago, I lived and I heard, first, we have to call the election now because some tough decisions have to be made in short order. Now, the BLP in power for the last 3 years and 7 months, yeah? So I know if you got tough decisions to make, the society and the economy would have taken a plunge. Them words didn't come from my mouth here. I know tough decisions got to be made too. But when the person who supervised and who presided over the downward spiral of the society and the economy come and tell you that some tough decisions got to be made and that's one of the reasons they call election, that is an admission of failure on her part here and her government's part here. And that's another reason you got to get rid of them here, because they're very poor economic managers. Got to come and level with you and tell that tough decisions got to be made. So it means that the economy is not on any trajectory where people would indeed get the opportunity to make meaningful things of themselves here. But tough decisions got to be made a couple of days ago as a justification for calling election. And now, when they launched their campaign, the Treasury broke here. They're moving now to a system of payment by bonds and not cash outside of purse emoluments here. So it tells you that the liquidity in the Treasury is meager, right? So, tough decisions got to be made. Outside of purse emoluments, which will be wages and salaries, everything now to be paid via bonds, a promise to pay you later. But I heard a couple of days ago, I read in papers because you don't listen to Motley anymore, I've heard too many lies from she, so I got the time to waste with she. No time to waste. But they want now to take just under 40,000 people off the responsibility of paying land tax. And then another 20-something would pay land tax at a reduced rate. So I said to myself, well, the election season really starts. So this is a time for fooling and lying and false promises, as they did in the last election. So the Treasury broke the use of bonds for government payments outside of personal emolument. Tough decisions got to be made. And when you know that when tough decisions got to be made, within or outside the program of the IMF, one of the things that you got to do is rein in your government expenditure, restrict it to essential things, all the non-essential things for which money has been wasted, like establishing a propaganda unit called the Ministry of Public Affairs. That has to be cut out when the Democratic Labour Party comes back to power. That is a waste of the taxpayers' money. It's a propaganda arm for the Barbados Labour Party. So that payment in bonds, outside the personal emolument, the Treasury broke. But you can deny the Treasury at a time when tough decisions will have to be made of hundreds of millions of dollars by taking almost 40,000 people off the responsibility for paying land tax. And intelligent people who had the responsibility to lead as the Minister of Education for 2 years and a month, we are supposed to believe that Motley can re-emerge in this land of fantasy and say one thing and then within a couple of minutes, virtually, cause a capitulation of what she said. Now, how on God's earth could the Treasury broke, austerity coming? When austerity coming, you got to rein in your expenditure, but you got to look for new sources of revenue without indeed bringing greater harm to the economy's chances of rebounding. But the same woman, when people were crying out for the incremental increases in the price of gasoline, of fuel, and we owe a debt of gratitude to that fellow Kwame Clark, that's his name, who used to provide those video clips and kept on the government's case, do something with the price of fuel, do something with the price of fuel. And you can imagine all sorts of promises were made to deal with the price of fuel here. Nothing has materialized. And those of you who are familiar with the price build-up for fuel at the pump would know that within that price build-up there's something called an excise tax. That is well within the reach of government. And don't care how they were told. Man, give the people a little ease now. Reduce the excise tax on fuel so that the price at the pump will be a little less. They put a cess on petrol to replace the road tax. They set the cess at 40 cents per litre. It was too high. The cess raking many more millions than what the road tax was giving you. They tell me that the tax was supposed to be revenue neutral. And what that means in public finance terms is that they will aim to rake in as much money as they got in an average way for the 3 previous years that they got for the road tax. That's what revenue neutrality means. But you know, even although they say that the thing bringing in more than with the road tax, all they had to do is reduce the cess by a couple of cents, you know, so that the thing, the whole exercise converges on what we know to be revenue neutrality. But you know, they ain't touch it. They say, man, do a downward adjustment in the excise tax so that the price of the fuel at the pump would be a little less. And those vagabonds resisted it. And they resisted it. And they resisted it. But all of a sudden now, up comes an election, and they can take almost 40,000 people off of paying land tax. Because voting taking place in a couple of days. Now let me tell you something. If this garbage is allowed to fly with Barbadians, I will be forever crying for this country. And I'm happy. I looked at an article in the newspaper today, and I'm giving some feedback of what Barbadians think about this election ploy, this nasty gutter politics, that they can take 39,300 and something people off from paying land tax, and a further 24,000 can pay at a reduced rate. And 90% of the comments on that particular issue were along the same lines as mine. Why all of a sudden now? Why you couldn't do something with the cost of living? Why you didn't adjust the excise tax when people wanted a little ease on the price of fuel? And they're thinking like me, you know. So it was supposed to be a catch thing, you know. But the Barbadians have wised up now. They're wised up and they're treating it as just what it is. It's a vote case employ, and they're treating it as garbage, and they're reflecting that in their comments. So we are supposed now to be on the receiving end of all sorts of promises, which you know will not see the light of day. The Barbados Labour Party came to power with a promise to reduce the VAT after a couple of months from 17.5% to 15%. You all remember that? In the last election, you all remember that? What is the level of the VAT in Barbados today? What's the level? 17.5%. And when they say, but wait, but Skipper, I mean, man, you're promising people these things. Man, the government can't afford to forego the revenue. So how the hell the government can't afford to forego the revenue through the reduction of tax, but on the eve of election it can forego the damn revenue by she coming and trying to pull all over our eyes and telling you that 39,300 and something people will be taken off responsibility for paying land tax. Because we supposed to be foolish, right? And we supposed to buy into that garbage, that is part of staying the course. Because we went to school. But we went to school. And I can remember when I went to school. And she can't continue to insult your intelligence and get away with it. Because that's what they're doing, insulting your intelligence. But she can take promise that will never see the light of day. To have the treasury that is brought foregoing hundreds of millions of dollars when a year come, but she can't tell me how much money was spent on the transition to a republic. And that's how we're supposed, that is what we're supposed to allow to continue in Barbados. And they expect that you can sit down with all this investment in education in me and my ability to come and put you all right and tell you all the truth. And I can stay home and draw up in the television room with my wife and drive my daughters up and down Barbados while this nastiness and this high-handed, foolish, uncharacteristic behavior as it relates to government and governance in Barbados continue. I will not do it. It cannot work. Because I am being pushed, my backs are being pushed against the wall too. And we got to come off the wall at some point. And this is the time to come off the wall. And you all realize that I ain't come up here and I ain't say anything about Kay and expect not much about that. Because I ain't come here for that tonight. I come here and I picture my speech at the highest level. Because once you bring her down, there's nothing left with the Barbados Labour Party. And that is how the Democratic Labour Party will win the election easy. Deal with her with the truth, hypocrisy and deceit and propaganda. Focus on her for change. Use the facts like I'm doing. Do not ridicule her with behavior that is not Barbadian-like. Use the facts. and put her down and decimate her. Because there's nothing left, hardly anything left of the Barbados Labour Party. And do what you got to do. Because we deserve better than this. And I'm passionate because she should know better on the eve of election and put in that stupidness in a manifesto and come in and spit out that garbage and expect people to buy into that nonsense. It cannot work. The Treasury broke. Let the Treasury retain its money in the payment of land tax. In the same way they can adjust the excise tax, the same way they can adjust the cess on fuel. Why they start going to touch the land tax now for fool people? Because 39,000. If all of them could vote, you understand how many votes there are? With all 39,000 that she won't take off paying, get ready responsibility paying the land tax, and all the 24,000 who she want to pay at a reduced rate, that is 39 and 24, 63,000. All of them should go and vote against she for coming to insult their intelligence. That is what it should do. And then she will get the message that Barbadians are not here to be trampled on and fooled and make laugh and sport of. We deserve better than that. I say so, because it is true. We have reached a stage, the last two things they did, which I can tell you about. With this, the first one is this decision that was taken. This decision that was taken to have an out-of-court settlement with those 14 police officers who challenged the denial of promotion. Barbados is supposed to be a country run by law and rules. These 14 police officers, they challenged the decision where they ought to, and that is in court. The High Court judge dismissed the case as lacking merit. They challenged the decision again in the right place, in the Barbados Court of Appeal. And it was dismissed again. The lower decision the decision of the High Court was upheld, and the case was found once again to be lacking in merit. The lawyer decided, I can send this case to the CCJ. The lawyer indeed is politician Ralph Thorne, right? Send this thing up to the CCJ. That is where it should go. That's the final appellate court for Barbados. What if it took Barbados away from the Privy Council and we adopted the CCJ as our final appellate court? That matter gone up there where it should be here, because that's part of the appeal process, and that's the last stop. The matter was about to be heard, and the politicians intervened. The politicians intervene and say, this case will not be heard at the CCJ. The government has intervened and it will make an out-of-court settlement, an amount not to be revealed to Barbadians, even though the money is coming from the taxpayers. Now, that is history in the making, man, as it relates to trying to blur the lines and succeeding between the separation of powers in Barbados. Now, when you know that separation of power between the judicial system and those who make laws, that is a fundamental prop of democracy in any civilized society. Now, when that has been eroded, a begging woman, that was done just before the election, where you thought democracy was at threat previously. That is the clearest demonstration that any government in a civilized society who could make a mockery of the separation of powers, you know exactly where you're heading. You ain't heading to be no minor dictatorship in Barbados, because that separation of powers is what keeps dictators at bay. You understand? And we have seen it being eroded right here in that decision not to let that case go up to its final resting place in the appeals process. If anybody had told me that a government of Barbados would have the ability and the belief to do something like that when we were in the last election. I would lambaste them that this Barbados Labour Party that I've been a member of at that time for 34 years would not be so stupid to intervene in the appease process to do something like what was done. I would lose all my money, you know. I would have lost every cent. But I saw the writing on the wall. I saw the writing on the wall. And I resigned from the Barbados Labour Party on the 26th of June last year. And all of what has unfolded since then, I saw the writing on the wall. And all of these things that are done in the name of poor, improper, and despotic governance, I saw the writing on the wall. And I told myself, it is coming, and I will not be a part of an institution that has gone in the wrong direction and that has turned its back on its foundational principles and respect for the rules and laws of the land. That's one. And then to add insult to injury, part of the decision is that Barbadians are not to know how much money the 14 police officers are getting. I'll tell one about this use of the taxpayers' money in ways by this government that think that they should not inform you what it is they're doing. And F, when they don't listen to me, and when I put these people back in power, do not blame me here. Because in a couple of years' time, the next election, when they certainly wouldn't see me on any platform, encouraging one to do anything, I would quit and I would done with that. But this is an opportunity, as I said, to do what you know is necessary. We have another issue here. I can come back. Do we have another speaker? Is there another speaker, Mr. Chairman? Mr. Chairman, is there another speaker? Huh? I'm not asking for another speaker because I can't go on, right? I'm asking for another speaker because I don't want to take up the time of a candidate. But if you all don't mind me taking up the time of a candidate, well, the time you go ahead. So let me address the other issue. What time the meeting got stopped though? Huh? 10 o'clock? 10? Well, that's 15 minutes. By that, within the next 15 minutes, I wouldn't be even warm up properly yet. But let me continue. The next issue happened in Parliament before it was dissolved. The government come up with something called a debt settlement arrears 2021 bill. Anybody really familiar with that? When they had the first reading of that bill, going up and flash through Parliament, 29-1. Flash through Parliament. So on the way now to be ratified in the Senate. This thing called a debt settlement arrears 2022 bill it is now. 2021 bill. Because she prorogued the House last month. I was home and a friend of mine sent this draft bill to me. It was more than a draft. It had gone through the first passage. That's the passage in the lower house. So it's on the way to the Senate. So somebody sent this thing to me out of concern. Said, man, Woody, might want you to study this thing, review this thing, because something I read in there. So I reviewed the thing. And I said, wait, these people for real? Before they inserted the clause to grandfather civil servants, Persian emoluments, this Barbados Labour Party government had structured a piece of legislation which says that every liability, and they had the liabilities there categorized in 4, that they had intention of paying monies owed by the government in the form of bonds. The first 3 categories of liabilities weren't so bad, but the last one said any other liability of the government, they will pay it by bonds. Any other liability could include personal injury claims, unfair dismissal claims, severance payment claims, gratuity, and pensions. So I say, but these people gotta be mad. You got this all-embracing final category called any other liabilities. These people could be for real. These people for real? Why it's about when people put in all these years of service, come to retirement age, you are telling me that you're reserving the right to pay a man his gratuity in bonds? And if you get in pension, you reserve the right, the government owe you pension, you reserve the right to pay me by bonds? But it's about, I mean, this is where we have gone to now as a society. That lump sum in gratuity that you look forward to when you're done work in the civil service, that is a liability, and that can be paid by bonds. But I say these people even worse than I thought they were. So I sent out my comments on the thing. So I told the man, you better get that to the trade union leaders about here, and prevent that from going into the Senate in the form that it passed the lower house here. Because a lot of people can cry if it ever get there in that form. A lot of people can cry. Boy, trade unionists to get together and to create some fuss, and they put the government on the back foot. They put the government on the back foot. And it was stopped, and they inserted a clause. They inserted a clause to grandfather that category of liability called personal emoluments. But if it had gone, there would be cat piss and pepper about here, man. When people retire. When people got severance payment that the government got to pay, there'd be problems galore, man. But they inserted the clause. But they didn't do enough with the bill. This is indeed a classic. So the only grandfathered personal emoluments, but injury claims, unfair dismissal claims that the government got to pay, they can be met through the payment in bonds. So I'm telling you, so if you had an injury in your employment in the government service, and that case has been outstanding for years, and you are to be paid finally, could it be a couple $100,000? In some cases, it could be millions of dollars. You can't get a damn red cent if that liability has been authenticated prior to September 2018, maybe beyond too. You can't get cash. You got to get bonds. You can imagine that? You can imagine you got an injury claim. The government agrees it has to be settled because lawyers did their work. And you owe many a medical practitioner money. I had to go through a long period of rehabilitation. You go on to this doctor, you go on to the next doctor, you go on to the third doctor. So between you and your lawyer now, the lawyer getting the doctor to look after you through your period of therapy, hundreds of thousands of dollars owed against the expected injury claim settlement, and you getting bonds to mature 42 months down the road. And that same doctor said, but when I did this thing for you and I facilitated you, I expected that when the claim is settled, I get my money. And if you don't have a compassionate doctor now, the doctor could indeed now make a move on your house, your real estate, whatever, your real asset, because you owe the doctor, and you owe the doctor too much money and for too long, and you got this government paper that ain't worth much. But you know what is even nastier about that? The bonds that they want to give you called a Series J bond. It is a classic. The bond does not carry an interest rate. The interest rate is 0. This Barbados Labour Party has taken me now into a sphere of finance that bemuses me, man. A bond, a promise to pay you money within 42 months. And if there's some disaster, because it has in a natural disaster clause, they have a right to pay you even further down the road than 3.5 years, because there's no obligation on their part to pay, because the natural disaster clause kicks in. So if a hurricane comes through here, government finances restricted, the natural disaster clause is triggered, you got to wait another 3 or 4 years to get some money. So what you're getting, no interest is accruing, you know, on that piece of paper that the government gives you. You can imagine, you take a piece of paper today, and 42 months down the road, or 4 years or 5 years, the nominal value of that paper is indeed the same value as it is 5 years today. So these vagabonds who went to school just like me, they refuse to take into consideration the present value of money. What that means is that if you give a man a bond, you promise to pay him 5 years down the road, he should get a sum that is equivalent to what it is today. So you got to let the man get some interest, man, so that the money 5 years down the road is worth what it is today. Because money in 2 years' time is worth less than what it is today, and that's a simple principle of finance. So when they do not give you any interest in the bonds, and this boy here did some finance overseas, so he know what he's talking about, Jetta. You know what is happening? They are withholding money that is yours by law. Because you must pay the man an equivalent sum down the road as it is today. So they're literally withholding your money from you, but they're doing it in a unilateral fashion. Because anytime you want to pay a man, pay back less than what is due for him, in law, you got to negotiate with the man and tell me that thing's a little hard and I can't pay you back. But you can't do the thing in a unilateral fashion. Because if you owe the government, no, the slap the interest penalty on you. But they ain't paying you the interest. And you know that they go in the assembly and they pass that. And then they want people who they will pay those bonds to outside of personal emoluments. And you know that they want people who they can throw that thing on to vote for them. Well, let me tell you something. Thank God for people like me. Thank God for people like Dr. Esway. Thank God for people like Jacto who can come and advise simplify we explain these things to you. Because the government unfair you. The government unfair you big time too. And when I go to push back against the government that unfair with them, go push back real hard too. Push back and push back and push back and don't stop pushing back until every person eligible to vote go and vote on January the 19th. Because this is payback time, man. Lies, deceit, propaganda, hypocrisy. Lack of respect for rules, lack of respect for Barbadians. Lack of transparency, no desire to be accountable, very poor governance. This country ain't belong to Martin. This country belong to we. Take it back. I tell them to take it back. Have S-Wick and noise to take it back. It ain't belong to she. Let her own a smaller entity, not this macro entity called Barbados. No, take it back. Take it back. Go and do what we have to do to get it back. And let me run it properly. Let me run it properly. Let me allow you all to have some say in how decisions should be made to affect your lives. Not ramming things down your throat, ramming things down your throat. Or the other thing she promised. I feel that her brain needs examining. She needs some sort of evaluation. You know, I heard also that after the election, I don't know if it came from her lips. After the election, a committee will be established to look at the cost of living, the rising prices. No. You know, we're supposed to swallow that too. After the election, a committee will be hastily arranged to look at the cost of living and try to drive down prices in some way. You know, that's something that they lambaste the DLP for. I got a week, I was there at the time. Lambaste the DLP for inability to control the rising prices. They had all the answers. 3 years and 8 months and 7 months. Prices continue their upward climb, occasioned by whatever factors, external and internal, but continue to climb. No intervention to deal with it, you know, after all the promises. But now, like they taking the people off the paying the land tax, now all of a sudden, a committee will be established in a hasty fashion to examine ways and means of bringing this burning issue of raising cost of living under control. But that is one for the garbage again. 3 years and 7 months, all sort of highfalutin and high-paid people as economists. Dr. Greenwich, Dr. Maskell, Avinash Passard, they got Whitehall, they got Ryan Strawn, and 3 ministers too, you know, in the Ministry of Finance. And after 3 years and 7 months, no committee has been established. Clyde and Avi and Kevin can't come up with a single way of arresting the rising cost of living, rising prices, but all of a sudden, that is an admission that my colleagues have failed too. Very well trained, just like other people, but they have failed miserably in that regard. So this committee that she can establish now, because the last one with Clyde and Avi and them, that didn't include me. So she might reach over and say, Woody man, your former colleagues failed, man. And she went back. And I praying on it, all right? That what happened? Man, Woody man, your former colleagues failed. Man, say if he can help me arrest. She may even put me in charge of the committee, if I so accept, to arrest the cost of living, raising cost of living on behalf of the Barbadians, who, unfortunately, I was unable to protect from the rampant increases in prices. But let me tell you something. man, give somebody else a chance to establish that committee, right? Because she had 3 years and 7 months to do it. And she showed no desire to. So give somebody else a chance to do that. So ladies and gentlemen, it is right 10 o'clock, policing making themselves seen. So I have to take my leave in accordance with the rules and the regulations, because I'm not part of that lawless group that have no respect for rules and regulations. So I have to bring this address to a close, lengthy as it was, factual as it was. Go out there, armed with the information I give you. Don't let anybody stay home, I beg you. Don't let anybody stay home. Encourage everybody to go. Wherever we're going for, we need a different course. We can't afford to stay this course in Barbados. This is a course of social and economic disruption. She tells me that rough decisions or tough decisions got to be made. Let somebody else make them decisions. Good night, and I'm obliged to all of you.
I'm indeed rather energized today to be here in Windsor Road, starting my formal campaign on the ground. The interaction with the people was indeed extremely positive, and I feel very confident that once I get the opportunity to explain to the residents all over the constituency why it is that we need to make some radical changes, and why it is that I'm going to ask them to repose confidence in me when the election is finally determined after the 19th. I want to give them the full assurance that I will protect their interests, and I continue to work hard and diligently on their behalf. But you know, the branch is fully mobilized, and we are going to continue this canvassing exercise every single day until that particular day when the votes are being counted. On January the 19th, I want you to come out to your numbers. I want you to come out to your numbers because Barbados is at the crossroads. We are going down the wrong path. But I came out of Budlam Baptist Church and Sister P Church. And I am not God. I believe in God, and I can put God first in what I do. That's why I'm on the job. Rest assured of that.
The best pick is S-Wick. The best pick is S-Wick. The best pick is S-Wick. Tell me who's the best pick? David S-Wick. Make way for the people's champ, the only ones in Philip West one. Tell me who's the best pick? David S-Wick. Sin Philip people know this is true. S-Wick always for you. Tell me who's the best pick? David S-Wick. In transport and water, agriculture, economic affairs. He helped build this nation for years. He sweat yellow and blue. S-Wick always for you.